Jose Altuve is one of the greatest players in the history of the Houston Astros. Yet, because of the team's sign-stealing scandal, he's become one of the most hated players in baseball. Boos rain down on him in every opposing ballpark, and he's become a villain to many fans outside of Texas. But dismissing Altuve at face value ignores the full story, because overcoming doubt and defying expectations is what he's done his whole life. The fact that he's even a household name is an incredible accomplishment in itself. Raised in Venezuela, Jose inherited his love for the game from his father Carlos. Every day he would wait religiously for his father with his little ball and bat. And every day after work, Carlos would walk down to the local field with his son to take ground balls, hit, and run through drills. Jose said sometimes we just had one ball, and he'd throw it to me, I'd hit it, he went back to pick the ball up, come back, and boom. Sometimes when Jose would hit a foul ball, it would sail over the fence and disappear. When that happened, they would show up to their local pro team's games and ask one of the players for a ball. Other times, they'd wait in the outfield bleachers and hunt for home run balls. They rarely stayed for the full game. Once they got their ball, they went right back to the practice field. That was Jose Altuve's childhood in a nutshell, putting in the time and doing everything he could to pursue his dream. But what he couldn't control was his size. When he was 16 years old, Jose went to a tryout hosted by the Houston Astros. He was one of 50 or 60 players to show up for the 10 or 11 scouts in attendance. Altuve told Bleacher Report, "So I run 60 yards, I catch some ground balls, I hit some balls, and they decide to let me go. It was tough." But not surprising. In fact, this tryout was no different than any of the others. As a teen, Jose went to camps hosted by the Angels, Cubs, Rays, Giants, Braves, A's, and Yankees. He was only 5'5" and 140 pounds back then, so he was used to being written off. The only thing that changed after the Astros tryout was Jose asked himself, what if? What if I just show up again? What if this time I don't take no for an answer? So the next day, Jose rolled up to the field again, hoping that the scouts either wouldn't notice or wouldn't care. They were surprised when I showed up, but they let me go and do it again just because I did show up. This time, there was a new face in the crowd. Al Padrique, a former big leaguer who was then a special assistant to the GM of the Astros. He asked Jose, "Can you play?" Altuve looked him right in the eye and said, "I'll show you." So he ran through all the same drills as the first day. He hustled, hit well, and ran the 60-yard dash faster than anyone else out there. Beyond the measurable aspects, what Padrique really liked were the intangibles. He was different than everybody else. The way he hustled on the field, the way he carried himself, and how quick his hands were. But when Padrique spoke to the other scouts, Jose's height kept coming up. The Astros back then, they looked for big players, physically strong and tall. Altuve definitely wasn't that guy. Luckily, the veteran assistant had enough sway to sell the front office on taking a chance. The pitch was simple: we have nothing to lose. They offered Altuve $15,000, which they claimed was all they had left. Jose said that it was more than he expected. The Astros assumed that he would negotiate, but Altuve could not accept the offer fast enough. The smile on his face was like a kid with new toys at Christmas. It was amazing. Signing a professional contract, even for a small sum, was a major milestone. But the reality is that MLB teams sign a bunch of international free agents every single year. The 5'5" infielder was a small fish in a huge pond. He told me several times, "I know I'm short. I know it's not going to be easy. But in my heart, I know that I can make it to the United States and go from there." Jose's first chance to prove himself came a few months later in the Venezuelan Summer League. And it was just as political as every other level. The guys with more service time and pedigree get the first crack and a longer leash. That put Jose at the bottom of the list. Omar Lopez, the team's manager that summer, said, "We had a scout named Johan Maya. Every day he said, 'Omar, you've got to put the midget in the lineup.' I said, 'Maya, I can't do it, not every day.' So one day I made a decision. I said, 'Okay, he's going to play 2 days in a row.' And then the rest is history because Altuve took a place, got in the lineup, got in the field, and I think he played for 5 days in a row and got 1 day off a week. That's it." Altuve never gave Lopez a choice but to keep penciling him into the lineup, and he ended the summer with a scorching .343 batting average. The following spring, he flew out to Greenville, Tennessee for rookie ball. Jose's dad said, "I remember he called me his first year in the United States. He called almost crying and said, 'I had 30 at-bats and only 2 hits.' I said, 'You have 2 options. Man up and start hitting, or tell the team to buy you a flight and come home if you're going to cry every time things go wrong.'" But that was the only time. He understood the message. 3 years later, Jose Altuve was in the major leagues. Within a few seasons, he was talked about as one of the best all-around hitters in baseball. The narrative about him being too small to play slowly faded away. Hall of Famer Craig Biggio said, "He understands who he is. He's not Aaron Judge. He stays within his capabilities, and that's the hardest thing to do for any big leaguer, understanding what you can do and can't do. Today, Jose Altuve is a 9-time All-Star, 3-time AL batting champ, and 2-time World Series champ. With every new accolade, he gives thanks to the man who opened the door for him. When not too many people were willing to give me the opportunity, Al Padrique was the one who believed in me. He gave me more than a chance. He pushed for me all the way through the minor leagues. I thank him every time I talk to him. Altuve spent his entire life proving people wrong, but not for the reason you think. Growing up, he idolized players like 5'9" Omar Vizquel and 5'8" Dustin Pedroia. Now he's sending the elevator back down. The next generation of players look up to 5'6" Jose Altuve. Scouts now will think twice before telling someone you're not going to make it. They're going to think this guy is the same size as Jose, and if Jose made it, maybe one of these guys can make it too. If I open at least 1 door, 2 doors, 3 doors for guys behind me, I'm going to feel like everything that I did was because of this, and that will feel good.